Hello, I'm Marilee Rosine Beasley, and today I'm going to talk about several different topics that are somewhat related to each other. I'm going to tell you some of my tips for success. You might find some things useful. Maybe you've already figured these things out. It took me a while to figure them out. I have been a homemaker for 50 years, so I didn't figure this out for many years. Anyway, I'd like to tell you some things that I care about and think about. One of them is time management. I have a lot of things I want to do every day, so I have figured out some things that help me. Some of them may help you. For instance, when I get up in the morning, or even sometimes the night before, I think about what I must do the next day, and I prioritize by certain things. Like if I have a bill that needs to be paid, then I will think about I need to do that in the morning before the day gets too busy. I also like to practice the piano. So that's one of the things. It's better if I do it earlier in the day, because I find that late at night I'm very tired and it's not something I really feel like doing. So it's better for me to do it early. So I have noticed that for me, I'm now a morning person. I wasn't always a morning person. I used to be a night owl. So now what I like to do is think about what I want to do every day and maximize my time. One of the things that I have found helpful is to do things like this. For instance, I've been practicing learning the Lord's Prayer in Espanol. So I have this candle. I got it at Dollar Tree and noticed that it was in Spanish and English. So I got this candle and I have it near one of my sinks. And so as I'm getting ready for bed at night, I can go over this prayer. Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre, venga a nosotros tu reino, and so forth. So this gives me a chance, and I can do it in the morning, I can do it in the evening. So this just gives me a chance to review this prayer in Espanol. All right, so that's one of the little things that I like to do every day. All right, so another thing that I've recently noticed is I found this a while back. I found it in the neighborhood at Dollar Tree, and you can probably buy a similar product in other places. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting some of the things that I like to use for my makeup in here, and I've got them in a closet, my linen closet. I have them in a box that's similar to this. So when I want it, I pull it out, put it by my sink, quickly start putting my makeup on. And then, then I have it out, then I can put it back. Something else that's very helpful for me is my hair is very fine, and so I like to put rollers in my hair, and I just use some of these to put them in my hair. I also find it's very helpful for me to have a container like this. I can put some things in and they're ready to go. Another thing that's very helpful for my efficiency is to have a calendar or to use my cell phone. So I use my cell phone for time management, to remind me of things that I want to do, and so forth. So that's something that's helpful for me. It might be helpful for you, or you may have something else. Now, another thing I like are trays. I like to put things on trays that I'm working on. I can use this tray if I'm having a dinner party. I can put some things on here, and I find trays extremely helpful. Now, one of the things I've done is to buy trays in colors like red. If I'm having a party, I can pull red out for July 4th. Red's good for Valentine's Day. Red's good for Chinese New Year. Red is just good for a lot of times. So these are trays that I've used for many things. I've had children do art activities and put everything on a tray. So it just keeps everything together, and then you don't have to hunt around when you're working on some items. Some other things that I find helpful is I have from time to time bought some of these. These particular ones are ones I found at Barnes & Noble a few weeks ago. I also was in a medical supply place and bought a few of theirs. So it may be a different company. There was some things that had to do with first aid. Since I'm a nurse, I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything that I might need to brush up on. even though I am a nurse, there are times when you realize you may not have the latest information. Now these particular ones, this one is philosophy. This one happens to be Italian grammar. I've been looking at some books about Italian languages, and because I happen to speak Spanish, I believe that the language of Spanish and Italian will be somewhat similar. So I just thought, well, I might as well just get this. I can review it for a few minutes here and there, maybe when I'm in my when I'm in my bed at night. I might pick this up and just go over some of the concepts and see what I can learn in a few minutes. Now this one is on philosophy, and I've never formally studied philosophy. Certainly I know about the Socratic method, I know about Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and so this was very helpful because it lines out a lot of the basics about philosophy, where we get some of our thoughts from, and just had a lot of good information. So I find these kinds of things very helpful. I've also had the one on medical Spanish. I wanted to be sure that there were phrases that I could review and utilize. All right, so these are just some things that I want to share. Now, something else that I've been thinking about was I noticed I live on the lake and in Jersey Village, and I noticed that from time to time there are flies that come in the house. So I started thinking maybe it's time for a fly swatter. So I was at, I think it was at Dollar Tree yesterday. I'm sure you can find these in other places. So anyway, I did get those yesterday. All right, now something else that I want to show is that's near and dear to me, is that I like to make sure that if I have things that I need to throw out into my garden, that I can do that. Now I noticed that I picked up some apples, and I noticed that they had gotten away from me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away these apples as much as I need to. This will go right here. This will go into the garden, and it will go back and be great soil. And so anyway, so what I'm going to do is save the good part and just cut away all the bad part. And then I'm thinking about making some pumpkin bread today, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of apple, see how it tastes. All right, something else that I realize, people will save these, and I've seen on the internet some really cute little things that were, it was Thanksgiving time, where they had taken things like this and had turned them into little, I don't know, pilgrims and Indians and, things like that. Now, if I don't want to save these, then what I would consider doing is just going ahead and cutting them into smaller pieces, maybe, and I can throw these into my compost pile. So I'm just going to show you, I might, put this in some water that's going to go outside. So I don't want anything to be wasted. Lots of things we can actually return to the soil. Of course, I showed you an apple that has a lot of parts that are not really very edible, so I'm going to, of course, do that. And then a paper like this. I think black and white newsprint, not with colors, but the plain black and white newsprint are also things that I could return to the soil. So anyway, there's lots of products. Now, another product I want to show you is something that is free. I like to go up to our neighborhood Specs and get snacks and ginger ale. I really like the ginger ale they sell. And this is just a free box. And usually these boxes are very sturdy. They're good for packing things in. Maybe if you didn't have enough storage for your Christmas ornaments. I've seen some excellent boxes that would be perfect for storage of Christmas items. Anyway, they usually have a lot to choose from, so I like to choose ones that either have some nice colors or maybe there's a nice piece of artwork on the side. Anyway, these are just some tips that might help you. I do like to think about when I buy things, can they be used for something else more than just the thing that I purchased it for. And so a lot of times I do see a second usage. So anyway, these are just some of my tips for success. These are things that maybe others have figured out along the way. I didn't know them the first day I was married, and I did eventually figure out better and easier ways to do everything. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I trust that some of these might be helpful for you or others.